Hello everyone, it's Elbone here, and welcome back to Destiny Deconstructed, a series in which I cover the numbers behind Destiny 2 because Bungie refuses to put it in the game. In the previous episode, we covered every base grenade in the game that you have access to in your subclass screen, so today we're going to be covering the aspects, fragments, and keywords that affect those grenades. So first off, what even is an aspect, fragment, or a keyword? Aspects are class-specific modifiers to your selected subclass, which can modify your gameplay passively, or in some cases are just straight up a new ability you have access to. An example of this would be Feed the Void, which is only usable by Void Warlocks specifically. Fragments, on the other hand, are class-neutral but subclass-specific modifiers for your gameplay. For example, all Solar subclasses have access to Ember of Empyrean, whether it's a Hunter, Titan, or Warlock using it. However, Ember of Empyrean is only selectable on Solar subclasses. Keywords are different buffs or debuffs that can be applied to either you, your allies, or your enemies that are elemental specific. An example of a keyword would be, say, Jolt, a debuff that chains arc lightning between enemies that exclusively does arc damage, but it can be used on any subclass or class through various means, such as the weapon perk Volt Shot. So with the basics covered, we can move on to covering the aspects. The only arc aspect in the game that modifies grenades is Touch of Thunder, which enhances certain types of grenades. Flashbang grenades emit an additional blinding pulse on their first bounce. Pulse grenades create ionic traces every 1 second and ramp up damage over time. Lightning grenades grant an additional grenade charge and it will jolt targets hit. Unfortunately, this jolt only applies to the initial blast though. Storm Grenade just straight up turns into a roaming thundercloud that will just track enemies down and fire bolts of lightning at them. It's actually horrifying. Gunpowder Gamble makes it so that way defeating targets with abilities, solar debuffs, or solar weapons will charge up an improvised solar explosive. Essentially, once you get to 6 stacks, you can throw a stick of dynamite that does a ton of damage. Roaring Flames makes it so final blows with solar abilities or ignitions increase the damage of your solar abilities. This stacks up to 3 times and lasts 20 seconds. Soul Invictus makes it so solar ability final blows, Hammer of Soul impacts, and defeating scorched targets will create sunspots. Standing in a sunspot gives you the Soul Invictus buff, which grants Restoration times 1, 40% decreased super drain, and 100% additional base grenade and melee recharge rate. Heat Rises gives you 20 airborne effectiveness and allows you to fire weapons, melee, and throw grenades while you glide. Remember, gliding is the Warlock's jump ability, which usually disables these things. In addition, you can hold your grenade button to consume your grenade and give you the buff Heat Rises. The Heat Rises buff grants 50 airborne effectiveness and modifies your glide so it pretty much lasts indefinitely as long as you tap spacebar. It also marks your location on the radar so enemies in PvP can see where you are. Kills while you're in the air will increase the duration of Heat Rises and will also grant melee energy based on the tier of combatant killed. Touch of Flame enhances certain solar grenades. It increases the cure and restoration effects on healing grenades from ×1 to ×2. Solar grenades will last longer and periodically emit blobs of lava out of them. Firebolt grenades have a wider radius and can hit more targets. And fusion grenades will explode twice. Offensive Bulwark gives you massively increased grenade regeneration, melee damage, and melee lunge range while you have a void overshield. It also makes your unpowered melee hits count as powered melee hits and deals void damage. It also makes it so melee kills refresh 6 seconds of your overshield's duration up to a maximum of 20 seconds. On top of all of that, it also grants an additional shield throw to your Sentinel Shield super. Controlled Demolitionist makes it so that way your void ability damage and volatile explosions apply volatile to enemies. It also makes it so the volatile explosions heal allies within 40 meters for 90 HP. Feed the Void makes it so all void ability kills grant Devour. Chaos Accelerant allows you to hold down your grenade button to overcharge it. Overcharging an Axion Bolt will add an additional Seeker and make the Seekers travel faster. Overcharging a scatter grenade will make the sub-munitions from them track enemies. Magnetic grenades turn into handheld supernova, a short-range void blast. This applies volatile, knocks enemies back, and can be held for 4.5 seconds. Additionally, vortex grenades get 70% increased radius, they'll burn for an additional second, and will pull enemies in earlier. Child of the Old Gods makes it so casting your rift creates a void soul. This void soul will hover next to you for 25 seconds until you damage an enemy. Upon dealing weapon damage, the void soul will fly out at an enemy and set up a draining field for 13 seconds that weakens enemies. It also deals damage every 0.75 seconds and has a 10-meter radius. If you're on a healing rift, it grants 3.5% grenade and melee energy every 1.4 seconds, and if you're on empowering rift, you instead get 25 HP every 1.1 seconds. On top of all this, if an enemy is being drained by a void soul and they die, you get class ability energy back. Bleak Watcher is a stasis aspect that allows you to hold down your grenade to convert your grenade ability into a stasis turret. This stasis turret will automatically shoot out a 5 projectile burst at enemies within 30 meters. It applies slow to enemies and the stasis turret lasts for 25 seconds. This is increased to 30 seconds with Whisper of Durance. It has 150 HP and has 67% damage resistance until it fires. While this aspect is equipped, your grenade's cooldown is always set to the same as Glacier grenade's cooldown, 152 seconds. This is just the base cooldown and can still be modified with discipline. Touch of Winter enhances a hunter's stasis grenades. Glacier grenades form in a hexagon and have 1 extra crystal. Duskfield grenades have a bigger radius and create a small stasis crystal on impact. And coldsnap grenades can chain up to 4 times and create small stasis crystals whenever they detonate. Widow Silk gives strand hunters an additional grenade ability charge. Additionally, if you grapple in the air, you'll create a grapple point. Mindspun Invocation enhances a warlock's strand grenades. When you use your grapple melee, it'll create 3 threadlings behind the target. If you hold down your threadling grenade, you'll consume it, generating 5 perched threadlings. If you hold down your shackle grenade, you'll get Weaver's Trance for 25 seconds. This buff makes it so when you kill an enemy, they emit a 5-meter suspending explosion. With all the grenade-related aspects covered, we should move on to Fragments, but real quick, if you're still watching at this point, go ahead and leave a comment on what grenade-related aspect is your favorite. Personally, I'm a Mindspun Invocation enthusiast myself. With that being said, let's move on to the Fragments. Spark of Magnitude makes it so your lightning grenades, pulse grenades, and storm grenades last longer. Lightning grenades get an extra bolt, pulse grenades get an extra 2 pulses, and storm grenades get a 3rd volley or an extra 1.5 seconds if they're enhanced. Spark of Recharge makes it so while you're at critical health, your grenades and melee abilities will charge faster. This is 4 times faster in PvE and twice as fast in PvP. Spark of Shock makes it so your arc grenades will jolt when they deal damage. Ember of Benevolence makes it so applying Cure, Radiant, Restoration, Healing, or Reviving allies gives you a 4 times faster grenade, melee, or class ability recharge rate. This is 6 seconds in PvE and 3 seconds in PvP. Ember of Blistering makes it so ignition kills grant grenade ability energy based on the tier of combatant ignited. This can scale from 8% on trash mobs to 25% on bosses. Ember of Resolve makes it so solar grenade kills grant a stack of cure. Ember of Empyrean makes it so any solar kill, including kills by solar grenades, extend restoration and radiant effects by 4 seconds. However, the timer cannot exceed a max of 12 seconds. Echo of Exchange makes it so melee kills grant grenade energy based off of the enemy combatant tier. This scales from 7.5% to 25%. Echo of Instability makes it so void grenade kills will grant you volatile rounds. Volatile rounds make your void weapons apply volatile on hit and apply anti-barrier. Echo of Provision makes it so dealing grenade damage will give you melee ability energy. The amount of melee energy you get back varies based off the grenade you're using, so your mileage may vary. Echo of Expulsion makes it so void ability kills, including void grenades, cause enemies to explode. This deals about 130 PvP damage in a 7-meter radius. Echo of Remnants makes your void grenade last between 40 and 60% longer based on the grenade that you have. Echo of Undermining makes your void grenades apply weaken on hit for 5 seconds in PvE and 2.5 seconds in PvP. Whisper Shards makes it so shattering a stasis crystal will give you a buff that increases your grenade's recharge rate. This buff lasts 6 seconds and can be extended up to a maximum of 10 seconds by destroying additional crystals. The buff gives you 6 times faster grenade recharge in PvE, and in PvP it's 2.5 times faster. Whisper of Torment makes it so receiving damage from an enemy will give you 4% grenade energy. While you're at critical health, the amounts increase to 16.7% grenade energy per hit. Thread of Ascent makes it so using your grenade ability will reload your current weapon. It also gives you handling, reload speed, and airborne effectiveness for 15 seconds. This effect has a 4-second cooldown. Thread of Generation makes it so dealing damage will grant grenade ability energy. The amount of energy you get back is based off of the damage source. So for example, a precision weapon would give back more energy than something like Osteostriga, which has a bunch of little damage ticks. Of course, that being said, Osteo is still amazing with Strand because it's Osteo. Now that we've covered the aspects and fragments that modify your grenades, we've covered pretty much every interaction that your subclass has on grenades, right? Well, there's a few keywords that relate to grenades that I'd like to go over real quick. Arc subclasses have the keyword Ionic Traces. These are little arc seekers that travel along the ground at 6 meters per second. They give you 12.5% grenade energy, 12.5% melee energy, and 15% class ability energy. Solar subclasses have access to the keyword Fire Sprite. These are orange little solar slivers that sit on the ground that can be picked up for 12.5% grenade ability energy. They last about 25 seconds and have a 5-second cooldown between spawns. Void subclasses have access to the keyword Devour. Devour will full heal you upon getting a kill, give you 5 seconds of additional buff time, this is increased to 8 seconds with persistence, and also give you between 7.5 and 20% grenade ability energy back based on the tier of combatant that you kill. So with aspects, fragments, and keywords deconstructed, we've covered pretty much everything in your subclass that relates to grenades. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe for future content. Hopefully you'll be able to use this knowledge to enhance those grenades and make them clear rooms or something, I don't know, bottom text.